Who was on the first fleet? It's a question that takes us back to one of the most daring journeys in history, a voyage that crossed oceans and brought together people from all walks of life, bound for an unknown land. Who were these men and women, and why did they take on such a daunting journey? Stick around, because by the end, you'll know exactly who set sail for Australia on this incredible voyage. It was 1787, and Britain was struggling. Crime was on the rise, prisons were overflowing, and society was facing a crisis. With the American colonies no longer an option, the British government made a bold decision to send convicts, soldiers, and officers halfway across the world to establish a penal colony in Australia. 11 ships gathered in Portsmouth, each carrying a mix of convicts, officers, sailors, and supplies for what would become the colony of New South Wales. Picture the scene: officers preparing their ships, sailors saying goodbye to loved ones, and convicts being loaded on board, many of them uncertain if they would ever return. It was a moment filled with tension, fear, and perhaps a flicker of hope. The convicts were from all walks of life. Some had been found guilty of serious crimes, while others were sentenced for minor offenses. All of them, however, had one thing in common: they were now bound for Australia. For more than 8 months, they endured the hardships of life at sea. Imagine the endless days of rough waters, cramped conditions, and limited food. Officers and sailors worked to keep the ships on course, while convicts remained below deck, with little space and almost no privacy. The mix of people on board meant tensions were high, but everyone was focused on one thing: surviving the journey and reaching land. The First Fleet wasn't just convicts. Officers and their families were also on board, responsible for overseeing the colony's establishment. There were also Marines tasked with maintaining order, doctors who tended to the sick, and even a chaplain to provide spiritual support. Each person had a role to play, and every role was essential to the success of the mission. After months of harsh conditions, on January 26, 1788, the First Fleet arrived in Port Jackson, now known as Sydney Cove. So, who was on that historic journey? Over 750 convicts, along with officers, Marines, doctors, and crew members, each one a part of this remarkable chapter in Australia's history.